December 26th. That was the day in 2009 when our baby was due to be born. My husband, William, who had taken to calling himself Big Daddy, was eager to see our child face to face. He felt that when they gazed in each other's eyes, that would be the moment when he first met this new little person. I longed to hold her in my arms. When I could stroke her back and kiss her soft head, that's when the waiting would be over. Putting up the Christmas tree and decorations had helped to keep my mind and hands busy as the due date neared. In our preparations for the birth, we had learned it was a good idea to have things to do to stay occupied during the early stages of childbirth. But I had completed all of those activities long before the first sign of labor. Our midwife, Mary Helen, modeled patience as our due date of December 26th rolled past on the calendar. And then the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, the 31st. First babies typically arrive late, Mary Helen reassured us. I was working on a jigsaw puzzle of a bright red cardinal in the snow at 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve when contractions finally began. Our child was born in the wee hours of January 1st, and at last, to my great joy, placed in my arms. Of course, we had to wait a whole nother year for the tax deduction, but... Waiting is something we all have to do. It is part of the mundane fabric of everyday life, not just the big events. We wait on checkout lines and doctor's offices. We wait for illness to run its course, for vacations to roll around, for grief to soften. At this time of year, we wait for the sun's pattern to shift from shorter and darker days to longer, lighter ones again. Perhaps we wait to find out what is inside that odd-sounding box under the Christmas tree. Or we wait for whatever particular traditions and times we treasure in this season. The hanging of the greens tradition that Westside has carried on for many years has ancient roots, going back thousands of years for people in the cold climates of Northern Europe, where they are believed to have first created the wreaths of evergreens. They lit fires as signs of hope in the coming spring and renewed light. When Christianity spread to Europe, the custom was absorbed into their observances as part of the Christmas holy days. The Advent wreath, central to Christian churches during this month, gradually spread to other parts of the world. And so the period of waiting for the birth of the Christ child was joined with the period of waiting for the dark and the cold of winter to peak. Long before pagan and Christian practice met in Europe, waiting already featured heavily in the Christmas story. Jews suffering under foreign rule had been waiting for a Messiah, when God would take action on their behalf and restore Israel. Early Christians believed that their faith was the fulfillment of this Messiah, that Jesus would save them from their plight. Hence carols with lyrics like, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel." For Mary and Joseph, the soon-to-be parents of the Messiah in this reading of history, the waiting was more personal. Whatever he might mean to the nation, Jesus would be their child. The couple journeyed to Bethlehem, where Joseph was from, to register for the census, caught in the wheels of Roman bureaucracy. As they continued day after day, a pregnant Mary riding on her donkey, they must have wondered where in their journey their child would finally be born. I can't help thinking that late in her pregnancy, Mary surely would have rather been nesting than traveling afar. Circumstances must have made it rather difficult to wait for their baby for so long. We too often feel like we can't wait to do important things. We can't wait to graduate, to land a job, can't wait to meet the perfect mate, really can't wait to get this baby out of a pregnant belly and into our arms. Sometimes we can't wait to celebrate a special occasion or become a grandparent or retire. We are impatient to get on with it all. Why is waiting so hard? For one thing, our culture does little to cultivate patience. Here in 21st century America, the pace is fast, the forms of stimulation endless, the goal perpetual achievement. It's an age of fast food, smartphones, and attention deficits, an age of road rage. We're conditioned to multiply our desires and to never be satisfied. Even if we get nowhere fast when we join the rat race, for those of us who do, the sheer act of movement can make us feel engaged in life. Still, that we may be doing a lot of things on the surface of life, perhaps even because we are doing a lot on the surface of life, deep down, we may not feel satisfied. Such dissatisfaction can show up in inner experiences confusion or restlessness. Sometimes it appears as feeling a little blue, or as a creeping cynicism or disillusionment toward life. As a young person, I was often restless, uncertain what I was called to do in this world, but driven to contribute in some meaningful way, and subject to the rise and fall of moods over which it seemed I had little control. I started carrying around a pocket Tao Te Ching when I was in college. Chapter 15 was soon dog-eared, and this verse underlined. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Lao Tzu was telling me that day to get the clarity and steadiness I longed for, I needed patience. I needed to learn how to wait. In my 20s, I was attracted to a meditation practice, in part because of its promise to help moderate my ups and downs, making me more patient and steady. I knew my water was muddy, and I wanted to make it clearer. I found that when the wind speed of my mind fell during meditation, the water of my feelings churned less, and I could see more of what was going on inside myself and in the world. This is not always a pleasant experience. In fact, the initial effect of such inner settling may be a greater awareness of how agitated our minds usually are. As I made friends with what Buddha called the monkey mind, I increasingly recognized how conditioned I was for stimulation rather than for stillness. The process of slowing down the mind, reducing the wind speed on my inner pond and letting the silt settle, could be rather uncomfortable at times. But I did find that the practice gave me more patience in the unfolding of my life. I might feel agitated while I was meditating, but I felt steadier in my daily life. I soon concluded that this benefit alone made the effort of meditation worth it for me. Instead of seeing waiting as something unpleasant we are forced to do, we might look upon waiting as the essence of spiritual practice. Whether our practice is to bring our attention back repeatedly to the focal point of our meditation, or let the thoughts slip by without holding on to them. Whether we work to listen in silent prayer for a still small voice within, or like to tune into the beauty around us on a walk. Whatever practice we adopt, we are training our minds how to be completely present in the moment, not expecting anything in particular to happen. This is, in fact, where Lao Tzu goes with chapter 15. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? The passage continues. Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment, not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. We can welcome all things. As we learn to wait in spiritual disciplines or in daily life, we may find we are able to experience more fully, more consciously, whatever is going on in our depths, be it anger, joy, or grief, love, fear, or longing. We're more able to bear all the pains and pleasures of living. We become less guarded toward life and more aware of when our defenses do kick in. This is why when people take up a daily spiritual practice or perhaps go on a silent retreat, it's not uncommon for troubled memories or sweet yearnings that have been deeply buried to surface. We get back in touch. Waiting does not always lead to more vivid self-knowledge or to more direct wrestling with our habits, but even when we feel like we are in a dry spell, not feeling the connection to Source, not seeing the beauty all around us, not hearing the inner teacher, often something actually is moving far below the surface. The monsters in the deep are shifting. The log jams are clearing. The root of the lotus plant is growing upward from the muddy floor toward the light. When we learn to wait, to sit in silence with whatever is happening in our life, to honor our longing for spaciousness within ourselves, the mud within us can settle so that we feel more clear, more pure, unencumbered by the past, open to the present. This not only benefits us, it benefits the people in our lives who will be drawn to our inner calm. It may even contribute to a shift in our wider culture toward greater patience and a greater ability to bear with pain and discomfort, rather than covering up our pain or acting out in ways that can sometimes be tragic. I believe this kind of spiritual work, learning to ride the currents of life, can have a healing effect that begins with us and radiates outward. Now, there is another kind of waiting for life, a kind of waiting where we are waiting for something to happen. The birth of a child is an archetypal waiting of this sort. We may be waiting for something else not entirely within our control. Perhaps trying not to fret while we wait for a medical diagnosis, or watching to see where a relationship is going, or maybe waiting for some critical mass to be reached that will help realize our vision for a more loving world. At such times, we may find it rather difficult to wait. It can be hard to stay in the moment when you are wondering if you have a serious health condition, or whether a promising new relationship will stand the test of time, or if enough people will wake up and act on climate change. Alternatively, we may be waiting for something to ripen within ourselves, perhaps a creative idea or a maturity of perspective. We may be biding our time, silently gathering our strength to allow us to take a difficult step, to forgive someone, to touch our deep sorrow and shame, to release an attachment, to say yes to something we feel called to do, which we know will not be easy. We may yearn to move forward, but like having a baby, we can't rush the process of transformation. We can't cut short the gestation period. If we have passed from caterpillar to chrysalis, we cannot burst out before our new wings are formed. Waiting is the work. Spring cannot come before the leaves of autumn fall and form new loam, before the seeds hibernate in the cold winter earth. Waiting is the work. Do you have the patience to wait till the mud settles and your water is clear? But how do we wait when the world is in turmoil? What does faithful waiting look like when so much harm is being done to the poor, to the marginalized of this nation? When class warfare is so openly practiced by so-called public servants who do the bidding of the most elite, it is tempting to look for easy answers. Like, wouldn't it be nice if a particular leader stepped forward to show us the way? But I, for one, am not waiting for a savior. Any voter who thought that Obama or Clinton or Sanders or Trump was going to save America may now be bitterly disappointed. Only mass movements can create lasting change. So if we want to make all those wishes on our grown-up Christmas wish list come true, we've got to get to work and keep at it. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We and the generations after us that we equip to continue the struggle. Now, despite my aversion to saviors, I do find inspiration in the Christmas story. As my colleague Annie Gonzalez-Milliken observes, Mary knew how to wait. Here she was, a teenager, pregnant before she got married. She's poor, she's living in occupied territory, and she's undocumented to boot. But she has strength. She already knows what the Bible proclaims over and over, what her son Jesus will preach and teach through his own example, that those who live at the margins, those who are poor and oppressed, have inherent worth and dignity. She is not ashamed of her status. Rather, Mary believes that God has plans for her. Mary announces prophetically, "All generations shall call me blessed." Pretty bold for a young woman in her circumstances. There's nothing passive about Mary's waiting. And let's not forget Joseph, her fiancé. A poor carpenter, he shares Mary's marginalized status in Roman society. And he may well be confused about their circumstances. Mary must have told him, as relayed in the gospel account, of her being visited by an angel and told that she will carry a holy child. Joseph is along for the ride, loyal to Mary despite whatever judgment the couple must endure from those around them. So we can wait like Mary and wait like Joseph. We can even wait like God, who is another character in the Advent story. What does the waiting of God look like? Milliken writes, "Wait like a God who gets fleshy, gets vulnerable, gets into radical empathy with the oppressed by literally becoming one of them. Listen to those who are suffering. Listen to those who are executed by the state, the way Jesus would be as a young adult. Listen to those who experience violence, occupation, condemnation." She continues, "We cannot, like the God of the Advent story, become a human of a certain time, place, and social situation, but we can practice radical empathy as best we know how. And so in this way, we wait. We wait for a new creation, a beloved community, a way of living that defies the corrupt systems that destroy lives in our country and our world. We wait in this time of Advent. I, for one, am going to keep calling my senators and representatives while I'm waiting and advocate for a beloved community rather than the continued spiraling of empire. What is faithful waiting for you? During those more momentous periods of waiting in our lives, when we are waiting for inspiration, for clarity, for transformation, we might seek out stillness and silence. We may regard agitation as normal, a sign that we are, in fact, downshifting and getting more in touch with ourselves, and we can welcome dry spells as potentially productive. If we are waiting to see the results of our social change efforts, we can keep faith with all of those who have sown justice before us by continuing to act from love, resisting oppression, building the beloved community, searching the contents of our own unconscious, caring for each other on our earth, knowing that someday, however near or far in the future, others will reap the benefits of our loving actions. And we can keep good company while we are waiting, with our loved ones, with fellow seekers like those assembled here, and with spiritual companions from ages past, like Lao Tzu, and like the Holy Family of the Christmas story, people who have left testimony of their own graceful waiting. May we have the patience to wait till our mud settles and the water is clear. May we continue to answer the call of love so that even when change seems slow and the odds low, we keep faith with all people. During the season of waiting, let us continue working to create peace in ourselves and in our world. Blessed be.